Good afternoon, Rabbi. We were asked by one of the local rabbis another question, which was, what are we allowed to eat on the eve of Pesach? Matzah or matzah products. So specifically, the question was regarding a cake which is made out of matzah meal, matzah flour. What they do is they make the matzah, and then they grind it up into flour, and they add all kinds of ingredients to it, sugar, honey, this, that, whatever, all kinds of things, and they make a cake out of it. So is that allowed to eat on the eve of Pesach? So the truth is, right, that we know from the words of Chazal, from the Gemara and the Rambam and Rishonim, Poskim, that on the Erev Pesach, what does that mean? The day before Pesach, from the morning until the night, that day, which falls this year on Friday. It's going to be on Friday, next Friday, right? Not this coming Friday, next Friday, not tomorrow. So the question is, right, are we allowed to have these kinds of cakes there? Because the person, once he is forbidden to eat chametz in the morning, that's about 10:30 in the morning, he's not able to eat chametz anymore. So then he has to eat something. He can't wait 12 hours until they read the Haggadah and they finish and they eat something there, whatever. All that time he's going to be hungry. He's got to eat something to fill him up, to keep him energetic all throughout the day. So the question is, what can he have? So the question regarding the cake, which is made out of matzah meal, it's a very interesting question. So let's try to go through all the possibilities here, right? First of all, the poskim say, several poskim, the Rivash and the Meiri, they say is that basically the whole prohibition of eating matzah on the eve of Pesach applies to types of matzah which you can fulfill your obligation to have matzah that night, the kazait, right, the olive size amount of matzah that a person has to have that night. It has to be matzah shmura. So therefore, what they say is that if that matzah that they're using, right, whatever it is, the matzah meal, it wasn't shmura and it's specifically not made for the sake of fulfilling the mitzvah. It's just made for eating, for eating on Pesach, but not to fulfill the mitzvah with that. It's not made for that specifically. Like all the garden variety matzahs that they sell in the supermarket, whether they're from Israel or they're made in America in the box, those white matzahs, the square ones, those are specifically not made for the mitzvah. So therefore, they say, right, these poskim, that you're allowed to have that matzah. Even though it has the same taste as the shmura matzah, more or less, same thing. But nevertheless, since you're not able to fulfill your obligation with that for the mitzvah of eating matzah on Pesach, so therefore they say, right, that it is allowed to eat. That's very interesting. There are some, by the way, who are stringent about that. We find that there's a Marsha in Masechet Pesachim, which explains the Tosfot over there. According to the words of the Marsha, it seems like a person should not be able to eat this kind of matzah on Leil Pesach, on the eve of Pesach. Why is that? Because he says, even though you cannot fulfill your obligation with that matzah, it's true, but since it has the same taste as the shmura matzah, so therefore you shouldn't eat that, right? What's the point? I mean, the whole point was, the sages said, right, don't eat matzah on eve of Pesach because you shouldn't have that taste in your mouth. That's the whole idea. You should eat, right, the matzah that you eat that night for the mitzvah. It should be with pleasure and with desire, te'avon. That's the idea. So if you already ate something like that, which has the same taste, what difference does it make whether it was made for the mitzvah or not made for the mitzvah? But it has the same taste, so it's going to ruin your appetite for the real thing you're going to have at night. But the truth is that we find that most of the poskim, the vast majority of the poskim, don't agree with this marsha. As we said, right, the Rivash, the Meiri, and many others as well, Rabbi Mitrani, many other poskim, they all seem to say, right, that since you can't fulfill your obligation with this kind of matzah, so therefore it is allowed to have it on Erev Pesach, on the eve of Pesach. So a person, could have that, but the truth is, right, that since there's a machaloket regarding this, there is some kind of dispute here, and also it's not so clear in terms of the svara, in terms of the logic, that it's so allowed. It is allowed, okay, mikra din, in other words, a person can slip by with that, no problem. There's a need for it, but there's a better solution. What is that? To eat matzah ashira, right? As we find in Shulchan Aruch, in Siman Taf Ein Aleph. He says over there, Maran Shulchan Aruch, that you're allowed to have matzah ashira on Erev Pesach, on the Eve of Pesach. Why is that? Because it doesn't have the same taste also as the regular matzah. It's made with fruit juice or made with wine. They don't put any water in there. Right? You're not allowed to put any water in that. It has to be pure fruit juice, not concentrate, because concentrate has water. So you have to make it with pure fruit juice or with wine, something which has no water added. So if you make it the matzah like that, which has a different taste altogether, tastes like a cookie, like a cake, whatever. It's sweet. It's got some sweetness. It has a different taste altogether. It's not lechem oni. It's matzah shira, just the opposite, right? It's rich matzah, not poor matzah. So therefore, right, the best solution is to have matzah shira. This way, right, it fulfills the obligation according to all opinions, because everybody allows that matzah shira. Right? Even we find in the Ramah over there, right, the Ashkenazim as well. They're allowed to have it too, even though the Ashkenazim don't eat matzah shira throughout Pesach. But it seems like on Erev Pesach, right, since Pesach hadn't started yet, so there is room to be lenient, even for the Ashkenazim, to eat matzah shira in order to hold yourself over until the Leila Seder. There are some companies that made that also. They make that. Some Ashkenazi companies as well. Like, Manischewitz, they make the egg matzahs. Egg matzahs are also matzah shira. Why is that? Because it's kneaded with eggs instead of being kneaded with water. This is the same idea. So, point is, right, that a person can have matzah shira. This is the best solution. We also have, right, these cookies, which we call them in Israel, paposhado. What is paposhado? There was a family that used to make these cookies, and now they came back into right, the reality of our life over here. They're making them now on a mass scale in Israel. They export them also here. We can find them in the supermarkets over here as well. Right, these paposhado cookies. What are that? These round cookies with holes, and they're sweet, and they're matzah shira. What does that mean? They're made with wine or fruit juice, whatever it is, right? Grape juice, whatever. So those paposhado cookies are allowed to have, since they're matzah ashira, you're allowed to have them. They taste good. They fill you up, and you have no problem with that, right? You fulfill your obligation, right, not to eat the matzot, according to all opinions, by eating those cookies. Even though, by the way, there was actually a controversy in Israel regarding these cookies, paposhado cookies. Why is that? When they started to make them, I don't know, was it like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, it was under the auspices of Maran, Moreno Rabbeinu Shalom, our rabbi. He was the one who was giving the hechsher for this. It was being made under his auspices. So what happened was that they were putting an ingredient in there, which was sort of like a caustic ingredient. So there were some rabbis who jumped out and said, this caustic ingredient that they were putting in there to make it soft. It was like nice and soft. You eat it like, oh wow, it tastes like a nice soft cookie. It had a nice soft texture. It didn't taste like matzah at all so much. So this was like really something delicious. What happened was these rabbis came out and said, oh, these cookies, they're chametz gamor, they're real chametz, these things. Why is that? Because this caustic ingredient that they're putting in there to make it soft is making it into chametz right away, because they're adding something, it's like a spice. If you add a spice to the dough of the matzah, you're not allowed to add any spices to the dough. Not salt, not pepper, not anything else, right? Because all these things, they make it leaven very fast. So therefore, they were saying, right, that since you're adding this thing, which is like a spice kind of, it's like caustic, has like a sharpness. So therefore, they were saying, right, that these, but the rabbi, Al Shalom, nevertheless, Moran, he came out and said that these rabbis are not correct. He denied their claims. He said that for sure, right, the way they were doing it was not making it into chametz for several reasons. I don't want to get into it now. This is not the time for that. But the point is, right, that nevertheless, since it stirred up a controversy, this whole thing about these paposhado cookies, so what they did was they took out that ingredient. They left it out, just to be sure, because this is business. I mean, if you're going to have a bad reputation, you're not going to sell anything. So therefore, right, nevertheless, even though the rabbi did not agree with them, what they said regarding that this ingredient makes it into chametz, they left it out altogether, and now they don't use it anymore. Baruch Hashem. So now there's no right chashash. There's no concern about this ingredient anymore. But so therefore, right, the best thing to do is to use these cookies to eat matzah ashira, or to eat those manischewitz egg matzahs. That's also a possibility, right? It's another possibility. So this is the way a person can do. But now, right, returning to our original question, what about the issue of eating these cakes, or kind of mezanot, which are made out of matzah meal? So here, it's not so clear as the issue of matzah ashira. What's the difference? The difference is that these cooked cakes, which are made out of matzah meal, there's one big difference, right? That they were already baked to be matzah, and then afterwards, once it was already done the baking, it was baked into regular matzah, normal matzah. Then they add all kinds of things there, sugar, spices, all kinds of things, right? All kinds of ingredients, fruit, this, that, whatever, to make it into a nice taste. So what happens is, right, that according to some poskim, what they say is, right, it says in the Mahariv, one of the Rishonim, and it's brought down in the Ramah, in Taf Hain Aleph, Ramah brings down over there, that this kind of thing, even though Matzah Ashira is allowed to have on Erev Pesach, but these kinds of cakes are not allowed to have. Why is that? Because they already were made into matzah, and then afterwards there were things added to make it sweet and taste like a cake. So that's not the same thing, because matzah ashira was originally made not to be like matzah, regular matzah. But this thing is made to be regular matzah, and then it's altered, added this and that. So according to this idea, right, you're not allowed to have these cakes. It's not the same thing as matzah ashira. But interesting, right, as we said, that according to this svara, according to this opinion that we just brought down before, which is the Rivash and the Meiri and many other Rishonim, the majority, who say that matzah, which was specifically not made for the mitzvah of achilat matzah, if it was not made for that, so that kind of matzah is allowed. So therefore, right, all the more so, these cakes should be allowed. Why is that? Because they're also not made for the mitzvah of matzah, of eating matzah. They're made with regular matzah flour, the standard garden variety, matzah flour, which is, from the boxes, those boxed matzahs. So therefore, right, all the more so, a person should be able to eat those since they're already altered and the taste is changed. So the question is like this, right? The question was by these local rabbis, they were asking, right, that maybe we should be more stringent regarding these. And they also saw that in the book of Maran, Chazon Ovadia, right, Morain Rabbeinu, Ovadia Shalom. He also writes that you should be machmir. He also is a little bit more machmir regarding these cakes which are made out of matzah meal. So they were asking, right, the question was, right, is there something to be lenient over here? So the answer is, of course, yes. Why is that? Because since we find that most of the poskim, most of the authorities allow even matzah, regular matzah, which is baked not for the mitzvah, to eat that on Erev Pesach, all the more so this cake should be allowed, right? So it must be that the Ramah who writes that we're not supposed to use this kind of cakes, he's talking about, according to the opinion, that also matzah, which was not made for the mitzvah, would not be allowed. But according to the opinion, the majority opinion, that says that it is allowed to use this kind of matzah on Erev Pesach, so therefore it should be allowed. So therefore, right, according to the bare bones halacha, a person is allowed to have these cakes as well on Erev Pesach, on the Eve of Pesach. But another interesting thing we find there is that the Rabbi Al Shalom Maran, he writes in the Chazon Ovadia Pesach, another thing over there, the same page there, next page. He writes there that if the matzah was cooked, like they made like French toast out of it, they cooked it with eggs, or they cooked it in a soup or something, whatever. So there he writes that matzah which was cooked like that in that fashion, even though it was made to be regular matzah, but once it was cooked, so then since the taste now has become different, or was altered, the person is allowed to have that on Erev Pesach as well. But regarding these cakes which were baked afterwards to be a cake, he's a little bit more stringent. So the question is, right, it seems to contradict one the other, because these cakes are also made with the same kind of matzah flour, which is not made for the mitzvah, and then we bake it again with all kinds of sugar and honey and spices, all kinds of things. So it shouldn't be any less allowed than the matzah which was fried or cooked in a pot. It should be the same thing, no? That it was made originally to be matzah, and it was altered afterwards. So why is he more lenient regarding the matzah which was cooked or fried than the matzah which was baked afterwards? It should be the same thing, no? So we had a question regarding that. So the answer seems to be, I can give you two answers for that, right? Two possible answers. One is that since the matzah is baked in the beginning to be regular matzah, and then they rebake it again after it becomes matzah meal in order to make it into a cake. So what happens is, right, that we have a rule like this, and afiyah acharei afiyah. The laws of Shabbat, we have this concept. What does that mean? That once something was baked one time, so baking it again is not called baking anymore. It was baked already one time. So therefore, when you rebake it, it doesn't really change it anymore. It doesn't alter it anymore. Right. So that's why we're a little bit more stringent regarding the cakes, which are rebaked after it's made into matzah flour. But right, regarding the matzah which is cooked, fried, or boiled, that's a little bit different. You know why? Because there, right, first it's baked as matzah and then it's cooked in a different fashion, right? It's fried or boiled. So yesh bishul acharei afiyah, right? We have a rule that there is cooking after baking. Cooking and baking is not the same thing. So because it alters the taste and the texture of the matzah, makes it into something else. So we say, right, in halacha, panim chadashot ba'olakan. It's something now. It's a new product. Why? Once it was cooked in a different fashion, before it was baked, and now it was fried or cooked, right? So therefore, now it's altogether a new taste. So therefore, I think this is the reason why the rabbi is more lenient regarding cooking after baking than he is with baking after baking, because that alters it more, the cooking. That's what happens. So now it's a new product altogether. It's a new contraption altogether. So this is the reason why a person can be more lenient regarding the issue of cooking or frying after, right, making the matzah than regarding the baking. So there's also another answer that I can possibly give, right? That maybe when the rabbi is talking about cakes which are made out of matzah meal, that he's a little bit more stringent with those. Not exactly 100% stringent, but he's a little bit more weary about that. So it could be the reason is because maybe that cake is made out of matzah, right, which is matzah flour, which is shmura. Maybe it's shmura matzah flour. It's a shmura matzah meal. So there are products like this in Israel that they make shmura matzah meal, and they make all kinds of products from that, because some people are makpid, they're stringent, not to eat any regular flour on Pesach, right? Matzah flour. They only eat shmura all throughout Pesach. Even though the halacha does not require that, some families are stringent about that. So therefore, it could be, right, that the rabbi is talking there about matzah meal, which is shmura matzah meal, and they made a cake out of that. So there, you have to be more stringent. Why? Because this, you can fulfill your obligation with that matzah meal. You can fulfill your obligation on Pesach. It's not like the box matzah, right? The regular garden variety, which you cannot fulfill your obligation with that because it's not specifically not made for the mitzvah of matzah. So therefore, right, it could be that this is also another reason. So Rabbi, to sum up this whole issue, right, it seems like the best solution is to have matzah ashira, right, which is what matzah, which is made out of, right, originally when they bake it, they put into the dough sugar and right, not sugar, I'm sorry, they use fruit juice to knead the dough, or wine, or things like this, right? Eggs also, egg yolks, things like this, which do not cause leavening at all in the matzah. That would be the best solution, right? So the second solution would be to have matzah which was cooked or fried or boiled, which changes the taste of the matzah, alters it altogether. And right, so the more inferior solution would be to have, right, matzah which is not made for the mitzvah, regular matzah, which is not made for the mitzvah of eating matzah on that night. But nevertheless, right, in cases of need, where we need this and we don't have another choice, whatever, so we can allow that too, right, as we said, because the majority of the poskim really allow that too as well, even though it has the same taste as the matzah shmura. So therefore, right, it's a little bit more stringent, but we can slip by with that too. That's the idea, right? But all which we said regarding this whole episode is regarding the day before Pesach, Erev Pesach, until the 10th hour. But once the 10th hour of the day starts, right, which is about 3 hours before nightfall, once the 10th hour starts, then a person is not allowed to have matzah ashira either. Right over there now, all of a sudden, the rabbis changed the gezerah. They made it even more stringent. Now you can't have matzah ashira. You can't have cooked matzah. Right? All these things you shouldn't have. Why is that? Because we want you to eat the matzah at night for the agadah, for achilat matzah. We want you to eat it b'te'avon. That you should be hungry. You should have a desire to eat that. But if you already filled up your stomach with matzah ashira and all kinds of things like this, cakes and all kinds of things, so how are you going to be hungry? So therefore the sages said, right, that a person, after the 10th hour begins of the day, which is 3 hours before nightfall, halachic hours. So once that begins, now a person should not have matzah ashira either, right? So here, he has to now suffice with all kinds of other things, right? Fruits, vegetables, you can have an egg, you can have chocolate, you can have a little bit rice, a little bit things like this. But they say, right, says Shulchan Aruch, even these things, even though they're allowed to eat before, right, after the 10th hour, but nevertheless, a person should fill up his stomach with these things, right? Don't fill up your stomach, eat, but with a measure, just to get by, just enough to get by. Don't get satiated now with this stuff, because otherwise you're not going to be able to eat with desire, the mitzvah matzah. So therefore, right, a person has to limit himself at that time to eat only, right, just to get himself get by, get a little bit of a satiation, a small amount, and this way, right, he can still eat the achilat matzah, which is going to eat at the end of the Haggadah with te'avon, with desire. Chazak Baruch and Yom Tov, all the best.